So lately, it seems like a lot of us are on a chase to get the softest, most beautiful cinematic light. Which, don't get me wrong, you know me, I love my soft light, I love bouncing off of Muzz. But I wanted to shine light on, pun very much so intended,
that was terrible, Todd,
on this topic of hard light and the beauty of it. Now, it's important to remember with cinematography and with lighting especially that it's not just about making everything the most beautiful we can. It's about making our image fit the story as best as possible. We're storytelling via images. And that's exactly the case of this project that I DP'd a couple months back. So this is a film called Beast. It's a short film that my friend Nate and I put together. I was the DP on it. He was the writer, director. And then Brian Durkee, you've probably seen him on the channel before. He was the gaffer and he absolutely killed it with this, and him and the G&E team. It's not necessarily out public yet, but I do want to talk about this frame. In this one shot in particular, there's a really cool shot where Ethan, the main character, comes in out of the darkness, this super kind of out of focus wide shot where he just comes and just gets like real close right here playing the camera. It's a really cool shot, a really interesting take on it, and I just wanted to break down the lighting of it really. So going back to the whole storytelling thing, we want to tell a story with image and lighting, and that's exactly what I was trying to go for with this. So our main character, Ethan, he's not a good guy. He's up to no good, so we don't want to make him look innocent and nice and kind. We kind of, at this point in the film, we want to have him looking gritty, looking rugged, kind of looking like a badass and somebody who's off the rails, essentially. So that's exactly what I did with this lighting setup here. You can see that he just looks like he's been through the ringer. If we'd done it with super soft, beautifully wrapped light, I just don't think it would have gotten across the message that we are going for. So we're gonna get to the lighting, but I think that the camera is important, especially with this shot. So we had this really wide out of focus shot, and that was a 16mm lens, and the lenses we had were the DZO Vespid Primes, which are beautiful buttery lenses. I love those. And we ran those on my Sony FX6. And we had that rigged out with a beautiful Condor blue rig, because who doesn't like a nice little rig setup? So that's what we had for the camera setup. I was just sitting in the chair handheld, holding camera kind of a POV fashion. And then the white balance for this, I kept it low. I was right around 3600 Kelvin, the white balance. It's been a little while, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's somewhere in that world. So to break down how we lit this, it was a really fun setup for this shot, and again, it was motivated off of wanting it to be hard light. And we wanted this warehouse he was in to be dark but also warm. So those were the two requirements. So we kind of have two different color combinations going in here. We have like a tungsten 3200 Kelvin, and then we have an even warmer vapor going on here. So kind of a contrast between warm and warmer. So the main goal was to have Ethan come out of the darkness. We knew in the script he was coming out of black, and it just so happened to work that we had hard light. Hard light's a lot easier to control and contain from spilling around and keeping the shadows there. So I wanted to find motivation for where this hard light was going to be coming from, and I just figured like an exterior vapor source, like one of those sodium vapor lights outside, could just be shining through a window or something like that, just getting a really hot light, casting through, creating shadows of wood on the floor, shadows on him, in and out pockets as he's walking through it, etc. So what we did to get this was actually a Aputure 600C. And we used the 600C because in the Sidus Link app, it's got all the gel modes. So we just went through and put this to like an urban vapor. And we just rigged this up on a combo stand, and we had an F10 Fresnel on this because we wanted to be able to focus in this light beam very direct, and we didn't want it spilling throughout the entire scene. So that was the main setup on that. I guess we'll call it a key light on Ethan. And it's really cool because as he's walking into the scene, you see just a dark figure, and then that light immediately hits him from the side. And I thought that was really, really cool, and it stays that way all through his path up to the camera essentially. And it just gives him a really cool, gritty, sweaty, dirty look to his face. But before we move any further, if this video interests you or if lighting in general interests you, I actually created a full lighting course that starts from absolute beginner, know nothing, like what is a C-stand, all the way through to mastering your lighting and being a pro on set and getting exactly what you want when you're lighting a scene. So if you're extremely overwhelmed with lighting or you just want to polish things off, I'm gonna leave the link down below for the course so you can check that out. But let's keep chugging along with this lighting breakdown. And then you'll see behind him, there's these little practical pops of light. And that was really just because I wanted to bring up the darkness because this warehouse was completely black. We had to at least work in some exposure so we saw the scene. So you'll see these little practicals that you see in frame, and these were just Home Depot work lights. These are not anything expensive. These were just these little $10 metal lights and little incandescent bulbs that were in them. Those are like 3200 Kelvin. We got dimmers for them. They were LEDs, so they didn't actually dim, so they were just kind of existing as they were. But I think that played really nice. That created a nice pocket of light on that table on frame left, because that is going to be somewhere that he's walking later. So we wanted to light up the table, and then we just wanted a little bit of exposure over on the frame right. So we just put another pool of light there. And then a really cool addition that we had, speaking of practicals, is this practical you can see on the floor. And what this was just a little practical lamp, and in that we had an Aputure B7C bulb, and this did a great job of giving a catch light in Ethan's eye. When he got real close, that hard 600 was behind him, everything was behind him, so his eyes were really dark. By bringing this little lamp in there, you can just see the little twinkle in his eye, and that just gives us somewhere to look when he's in here looking into the darkness. And also we had that in there for the reverse of the other character. It's casting some light as well. But I noticed that it plays really, really nicely as a catch light and just a little bit of underside fill. Again, it's really dark in this scene here, so as Ethan came in and got really close to the camera, his frame left side was still really, really dark. Those lights in the background weren't playing enough, so I think we just took an Amaran PT4C tube, and that was just a little tube off camera on the left, and that was just acting as a rim light and just bringing in a little bit more. You see the reflection off of his cheekbones, and it just looks really, really nice. And the main goal was just to play off of, I guess, augment more of those work lights that's back on that table. And the thing is with shooting wide is we see everything. So we saw all of this warehouse, and we needed the ceiling was just way too dark for me. It just fell to black. There wasn't a lot of depth in the scene. So I opted to add in a light way back there, and that was just, I didn't even make my way over there. I think they had an Aputure 600X over there, and this was set to a 2700 Kelvin, and this just had the reflector dish, and I just had it shooting up at the ceiling. It was like 5%, just very, very subtle, but just adding a little bit of texture to like the rafters that you see overhead. And that's just giving me more depth into my scene. So now we've got Ethan, behind him we've got the bookshelf and this wall and this whole room, and then behind that we've got even more of the warehouse exposed, and we're just adding to the scene, bringing it back there. So the lighting setup was, it was fun. It was small but mighty. I would have loved to be able to haze in here, but I was told shortly before that we couldn't actually haze because of the fire extinguisher, or the fire things. So I think haze would have done a nice job adding some artifacts to the light and, you know, some atmosphere in the room, but I don't think that it looked bad at all. I'm actually really, really happy with this. I'm excited about this shot. I'm excited about the whole film. I can't wait to show it to you guys when it gets to that time. If you're still here, I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around, and I will catch you in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.